Part 20. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gongwei Pang. Chapter 193. Feeling Yan Ji's staring eyes, Cao Zixuan had an instinct that he was going to be bad. He whispered his words with deep affection, his voice was even gentler. "Oh, my head is done, you let me go, and I'll wash it, okay? It's all hair on the bed, and it's not good to stick to you." Words, anyway. Her knife moved down with her gaze. Cao Zixuan shivered. His poor expression was weak. "Well, can you put your knife on the table, it's too sharp, and I'm scared." "Yanj, well, good." Cao Zixi was relieved. But before this tone of sigh was loosened, he was stiffened with a spirit. Hey, that's not okay, hey." He stammered, trying to break free of the rope, but fearing that he would be self-defeating with every move, and could only move. "Well, you don't think this hair looks good? I'll clean it myself later, don't touch it, too dirty." "It's really dirty." Yan Ji didn't look up. "The knife is sharp, don't move around." Where does Cao Zixuan dare to move? He does not dare to move now. He was afraid to startle his words, and he was slow and out of breath. This is even more terrible than being sentenced to death. Cao Zixu's torment was gone, and he was not even joking with Yanj. He hadn't felt anything at all before shaving his head, but now he really has the illusion that he was being chilled. His eyes were either staring at Yanj, or the sword of Yan Singer. Sometimes he could not even breathe out. When Yanj finally let go of his knife, Cao Zi had a feeling that he had walked on the death line. The cold sweat dripping all over the body. Yan Ji went to the bathroom to wash like a okay person. Cao Zixuan was frightened by the song twice. After the hot sweat on his body, the cold sweat spread from the back to the whole body. Listening to the sound of the water in the bath at the side of the song, Cao Zi felt funny afterwards. I felt that he was so embarrassed that there would still be fear. He turned his head and held the knot on his hand. The woman's method of knotting was really special. Thinking of her marksmanship and swordsmanship again, Cao Zi's eyes were full of interest. After Yanj took a bath and put on a lining, she lifted the curtain and looked at Cao Zixuan. "How do you feel?" Cao Zi said quickly, "It's a bit cold, my hair is all dirty, and I'm a little dirty. I want to take a bath." Yan Ji didn't respond. She went to the bed and leaned down, staring at Cao Zixuan. Seeing Yan Ji's serious and indifferent expression, Cao Zi even felt that this woman was fun. He wanted to lift his head to peck a lip of a speech song, but the speech rose slightly, and his hands and feet were tied. He couldn't kiss the speech song even higher. Yanj pinched his chin with his fingers and squinted at him. Cao Zixuan grinned at her and said, "Am I pretty? Let me go, I will look better, good-looking and practical. Hey, let me go, you help me manage my hair and I have to repay you." Yan Ji ignored his jerk. She let go of his chin, and put his fingers on him, like a child got a new toy, curiously disassembled and assembled the toy, trying to develop various new functions of the toy. Cao Zixuan's captivity was covered with fire. He stared at Yanj with his eyes, and Hesuoshuo's eyes seemed to be brewing silent lava, which would devour Yanj in the next moment. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gongwei Pang. Chapter 194. Cao Zixuan did not let go of the song. He has been struggling. But this rope did not know how she was tied. No matter how hard Cao Zixuan struggled, she couldn't fight it. He couldn't break free, and later he simply indulged himself and focused on enjoying the physical pleasure that the words brought him. He hummed so often from time to time. The chicken sighed, "This man is too showy. Hemp eggs are really dry. It's a waste to make him into a specimen." Because of his scream, I also want to hide him in the golden house, mother-in-law, and man. It's really delicious. Yanj, do you like females or males? Chicken, does this stop me from loving men? Doesn't seem to interfere. The words were blocked, but the chicken said happily, Laozi has been dying for thousands of years, and one day she will go out, and make a beauty hole. There are so many beautiful people hidden in it. Laozi calls every day. Numerous. Yan Song, you must have tens of thousands of green hats. Chicken, it's all my beauties, and it's a pleasure to have them together. At the end, it said, you like green hats, don't think that everyone else likes them. It's best if you don't say such things to you in the future. I don't like to listen very much. If you say anything else, I'll break up with you. You hurried on, why didn't you stop seeing him dissatisfied? Song. She left Caoziu, who was dissatisfied, and went to the side room to wash her hands before falling asleep on the couch. Caozijhen. He was going to be strangled without being scared to death. Oh, he called, oh, my brother is so uncomfortable, can you help my brother? Well, my brother's wrist was torn. Would you help my brother untie the rope? Well, did your brother make you angry? His life is sullen, my brother is very distressed, you don't get angry, you come and continue to brother's meal, okay. Well, brother can't sleep without you. The song of the night fell asleep in Caoziu snoring. The next day she woke up and released Caoziu. Caozijhen's hands and feet were stiff. After he slowed down, he stood up and hugged his words immediately, well, you are so cruel. I didn't sleep this night, but I feel uncomfortable. Yan Song, you are so hairy, don't hug me, just hold me. Caozijhen hugged Yanj even more tightly, Mao has been shaved by you. Where is there? Yanj poked his bald head, release. Caozi laughed and let go of the song, well, I'm going to take a bath. Can you help me pick up the hair on my clothes? The hair is so panicky that the underwear will be worn on my body. This day it was tied. Yanj laughed, what is your hair that you want to abandon, where you need to pick it up, and your underwear is in the closet? You can change it? Caozi took a few steps and turned his head again, hey, there are my clothes here? Hey, I'm so impressed. He washed himself again in Yanj's bath water, and his hair was on the bed, so he couldn't lie down. He had the intention to press Yanj on the couch to vent his bathing fire that he had accumulated all night, but the subtle fragrance was waiting outside the room, so close to the door, Yanj was definitely unwilling. So even if the stagnation of fire in the body is really serious, Caozijhen did not touch the song after taking a shower, but instead dressed properly. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gong Weipang. Chapter 195. Yanj had already opened the door, and asked Xiang Hong to enter the door and put her wash water on the shelf. When Caozi was wearing his clothes, he faintly heard the words from the outside talking softly and with Hong Xiang. This woman is so gentle on the surface that she looks harmless, but she has thorns all over her. He thought for a night before he understood, she must have retaliated against him like that last night. Revenge on his initial capture. Obviously she was so happy that she still had such vengeance. And I have been silent for so long. This woman, if she's not happy, maybe he hanged up last night. She had such sharp claws last night, but today she was just like a fine person, making him really gritted her teeth. Because of the subtle fragrance, Caozixuan had no chance to hug the woman anymore, and could only stare at the subtle fragrance. He wanted to wait for Angxiang to leave, but the master and servant talked and laughed, but ignored him. Caozi has something to do with him today, and even if he wants to move, he can only leave. As soon as Cao Zichen left, Yan Jie and Rang Xiang went to Fang's house by car. The Cao family thought she would return in the evening, as usual. But until the door of Cao's house got the key, Yanj didn't return to Cao's house. I didn't go home for 1 day and 2 days. The daughter-in-law didn't know how many green hats she had put on her son, and Cao jumped angrily. She splashed and rolled at Mr. Cao and wanted to wrest her words. Today, the Fang family has become more and more powerful. Father Cao has a long-term vision. He also wants to work with his in-laws to take the Cao family to the next level. He didn't think about leaving the song at this time, so he told Cao Fu. Crying, he would scold Cao completely after a meal. The third aunt is getting more and more valued by Mr. Cao. Daughter-in-law is not an issue in her parents' home. Father Cao tried to discuss with his younger son, should we bring some gifts to visit my in-laws? By the way, take Zijian's daughter-in-law back. Cao Zi heard the words and narrowed his eyes. Father Cao said, I just want my family to go back and live for a while. It would be fine at all, but if you go, it's okay, and it will become a problem. When you go to the Fang family, you want to pick me up, or are you going to avenge Fang's family? Mr. Cao was also worried about this, so he hesitated. At this moment, Cao Zi said, and he sighed, what can you do? Chilled soup. The Cao family was dead or alive, but Cao Zichen didn't care. He left Beijing this time and never thought about having any more ideas with the Cao family. Otherwise, Yanj will not let Cao leave. However, he wanted the woman to leave with Cao Zijian, and how did the woman return to Fang's house? Even if he didn't see him, was it because he was reluctant to leave with Cao Zijian and stay away from him? Cao Zi was so anxious that the woman was really uneasy at all. But what he planned did not stop. Some friends who went abroad to study with Cao Zijian first returned to China, and at a banquet, they talked about how Cao Zijian has been with a female classmate abroad in the name of husband and wife. This friend probably didn't know that Cao Zijian had a wife at home, and also said congratulations to Cao Ziqiang at the banquet. He said that the female classmate was not small at home. If Cao Zijian returns, he will have a lot to do. Xilanman. This word quickly spread throughout the circle. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gongwei Pang. Chapter 196. When it came to the ears of Grandpa Fang and Grandpa Cao, the words had been exaggerated many times. Mr. Cao is no longer in a hurry to let Yanj return to Cao's house. The younger son is promising, and the oldest son will be able to return in glory soon. He thinks he is very excited. The more excited he was, the more worried Fang's daughter-in-law was. Today, these young people are popular for monogamy. There is not even a flat wife. At that time, the eldest son really brings back a fiancé. What should Fang Jia do? It didn't take long for Father Cao to worry about this, and he learned that the daughter-in-law had made an appearance and became a teacher in school. Wife, do not take good care of the house, and even show his face outside, this is true. Mr. Cao was so angry that he wanted his third son to go to school and let the school quit the song. Today, in this world, the guns are the hardest. Their 3 sons have a team of guns. That's all they can do in Beijing. If they have 3 sons, they are not afraid of school. But the third son gave him a smirk and gave him a smile. You don't like this daughter-in-law? You don't kick her out of the house, do you still think that Cao Zijian will come home and come home? Cao Zijian knows about entering and leaving with his fiancée abroad. Mr. Cao thought so, but he was afraid that this room would sing out the words from the Cao family, but Cao Zijian and the so-called fiancé in that room were nothing. When the chicken fly beats him where he goes to cry. However, this matter could not help Grandpa Cao hesitant. Uncle Fang came to the door and asked for a divorce. Fang's family was very aggressive, and Grandpa Cao was busy trying to move his 3 sons from Shasha, but when Cao Zijhan appeared, he said, "Leave away from you. Men and women are always together when they are together." Mr. Cao. There is no room for him to speak. The Fang family didn't just talk about it. The two went to the government office, wrote a divorce book, and drew their respective signatures. Because neither of the two masters came, the signatures were both Mr. Cao and Mr. Fang. However, the seal of Cao Zijian and Yanj was stamped on it, and this divorce book was stamped with an official seal and took effect immediately. After leaving the government, Uncle Fang's family led people to the Cao family, and all of Yanj's dowry moved out of the Cao family. When Madame Cao learned that, she spit out her sputum in the spittoon. "This cheap hoof is cheap." The third aunt was very anxious. She hinted that it was so obvious, but the old woman had not responded at all. She had to say, "Mrs. Fang's family is in the grandma's yard," and said that they would move the dowry of grandma. "Let's go." Upon hearing that, Mrs. Cao got up from the bed and stared. "She dares." Immediately took people to the courtyard of Yanj. This thing is obviously that the Fang family is a woman who does not follow the ethics. The two people are already cheap. Fang family, why should Fang family remove the dowry, Fang Kaiyan butler for so long? Maybe these dowries are from the Cao family. Picked up at home. Moreover, when people marry to Cao's family, the dowry is from Cao's family, and Lai Fang mentioned it from Fang's family. Why do these people have faces to remove the dowry? Mrs. Cao was so aggressive that even if she had fought this old life, she would have to leave the dowry. However, when she went, she found that her third son, Cao Zixuan, also brought a team of people wearing military uniforms to help move Fang Kaiyan's dowry. The elbow that turned away? Health, Madame Cao was so angry. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gong Weipang. Chapter 197. Cao Ziying leaned against the moon arch and played with a gun in his hand. Turning around to see Mrs. Cao, Cao Zijhan asked her, "Is the old lady here to help me with the dowry? But there are so many people here. You don't need your old and disabled to stay away, so as not to interfere." Mrs. Cao. Her blood was stuck in her throat, and she really wanted to spray Cao Ziyan's face, but she couldn't say a word while staring at Cao Ziyi's gun. She had never been afraid, but that day, she was really scared to death by the gun of Yanj. In her eyes, Yanj is a cheap hoof. The Cao Ziyu is a muddy man in front of him. The cheap hoof is the gun that this guy gave, and the cheap hoof that this guy taught him must have fired at her. Mrs. Cao thought about gritting her teeth. Cao Zijhan must have been anxious to kill her in the bottom of her mind, and she must not give him a little chance. So even though the hatred tooth was itchy, Mrs. Cao did not show it on her face. She stepped back without a trace and kept a distance with Cao Zijhan. "I heard that my in-laws are here, and I want to sit together. Don't put the gun in Cao Ziyi's holster into the holster." When he heard the words of Mrs. Cao, squinting at Mrs. Cao, he didn't speak, so he stared. When Mrs. Cao saw his gun in the holster, the pounding heart calmed down. She always did not like the sun to see her eyes, so she immediately said, "Why, my in-law is not in the yard." Although the voice was desperately suppressed, it was difficult to conceal his disgust with Cao Ziyu. Cao Zijhan immediately drew his gun, and it was a shot towards Mrs. Cao. The shot was only an inch away from Mrs. Cao's feet. Where would she think that Cao Zijhan really dared to shoot? She was so scared that she sat on the ground instantly. He sighed and fainted after a long time. After listening to this, Mr. Cao learned that Mrs. Cao was just dizzy and had nothing serious, so she pretended not to know where she was. Although he wasn't showing his face, he felt relieved. This little son has always been angry with Cao's family. He knew from the bottom of his heart that it was the old lady who did not treat Cao Zixuan well, so that Cao Zixuan and his family were divided into such things. Cao Zixuan went to the school gate and muttered. It can be said that since the school began class, even Fang's family did not go and lived in the school's dormitory directly. Outsiders could not enter the dormitory. Cao Zi waited for several days at the school gate without waiting for the words. He simply turned over into the courtyard at night and touched Yan's dormitory. Hearing the knock from the window, Yan Song slightly hesitated, and stood up to the window. Cao Zi's low voice came, "It's me, open the window." Yanj opened the window, and Cao Zi crawled in. "How do you?" She hadn't finished talking, and he had tightly hugged him with a vicious grimace. Every time the chicken sees Cao Zi's wolf like a tiger, he will be very unfortunate. Yan Ji had been thrown on the bed by Cao Zixuan, and he couldn't say a word. "I'm leaving tomorrow." When he lingered on her, he mumbled a little bit, "You cruel woman, I won't look for you, will you not look for me forever?" He threatened her fiercely, "If you dare to find another man, I will break your leg when I come back." You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gong Wei Pang. Chapter 198. But Cao Zi's fierce words immediately became endless gentle obsession in the soft body of the words, "When I come back, you can't hide from me like this. On the day I return, you will cook a bowl for me. Noodles, you have to help me take off my shoes, then wear me a safety button, wash me and change into a new dress. I will be very tired at that time. You have to take the initiative, be gentle, and wait for me." He sounded like a child who wanted sugar, and was aggrieved, but his body was like a beast that plundered winter food, and there was no room for relentless cruelty. Yan Ji was very docile at this moment. She greeted him, her eyes soft and tender. "Well." He listened to the voice of Yanj, thinking about the picture after his return. It was really beautiful. He was proud of his heart and became more energetic. Men and women are entangled in love, even if there is no sound, they seem to melt into each other's body, a moment of heaven, a moment of eternity. Because he was afraid that his colleague would be pointed at Yanj after being hit by his colleagues, Cao Zixuan left without light. Without Cao Zi, the muddy boy, Yan Ji's days have become a stagnant water. It's not a stagnant water. She gave herself a pseudonym, and has been publishing some articles about women in the newspapers. Occasionally, she also publishes current affairs and politics. Her pen power is sharp, and she is used to satire with some love stories that men and women love. The status quo today. Gradually, her pen name also has a place in the literati circle of Beijing. As soon as Cao Zixuan left, the Cao family collapsed completely. In the host's life, the Cao family who had been strong for a long time did not collapse until the chaos in the capital. It was only a few days, because the third aunt too eloped with the money from the Cao family and a Mr. Cao's accountant. Collapsed. The second grandfather of the Cao family stole the title deed of the Cao family and gambled. Even the third family of the Cao family could not hydrolyze near thirst, and the third family also secretly greeted him. Those people were naturally fearless. Yanj left the class, packed up and planned to go back to his dormitory first, and someone called her behind him, "Hey." She turned her head and told Cao Lingling, "I have nothing to do with the Cao family. I hope you can call our teacher like other classmates." Cao Lingling froze slightly. Although Yanj was smiling, her smile was mild but alienated, not even as kind as when she was facing her students. In fact, Cao Lingling never thought about having trouble with her words. She is also a girl with great self-esteem, but now that kind of thing is happening at home, she can only ask for help at this moment. When she heard Yan's words, her heart was sour, and she burst into tears as soon as her eyes were hot. Well, Mrs. Aunt Tai and Mr. Taifang ran away with the money of Cao family. I do not know what to do. My mother asked someone to come to me and let me go home. There was no money in the house, and the house was gone. The servants left one by one, leaving only her father and her mother. The two were nestled in a small run-down house of a relative's house, urging her to go back. The silly son who married a relative's family was so lucky to spend money on living. She didn't want to. She didn't want to ruin it all her life, but her second brother came to school to block her from time to time. Cao Lingling thought of those things at home, but she didn't even cry before she finished speaking. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gongwei Pang. Chapter 199. Cao Lingling grabbed the sleeve of Yanj, as if she had caught the life-saving straw, choked and said lowly, "Well, what should I do, what should I do? It is normal for you to go back home because of difficulties at home. You have enjoyed the money and resources brought to you by the home. It is also necessary to help the family when the home is difficult." Cao Lingling raised her head slightly, her mouth opened slightly, and she looked at Yanj in amazement. She probably felt that Yanj had learned and cultivated, and had a divorce experience. She would definitely dislike the traditional concept, and would not have a good impression of Cao's family, so she would definitely stand by her side and fight with her enemies. But I didn't expect that Yanj said that. Without waiting for her response, Yanj said, "It's just something, you have to have a bottom line, your loved ones, those who need to work hard, those who don't need you, you have to be clear." Cao Lingling's desperate eyes flashed again. "Oh, do you also support me? Let's call our teacher. Your name will make others misunderstand." Cao Lingling said immediately, "Well, no matter what happens to you and my family, but in my heart, you are the one who is the best for me." Yan Ji accepted the smile on her face and looked at her blankly. "If you really feel that I'm better with you, just call my teacher on the fact that I used to treat you well." Cao Lingling opened her mouth and wanted to speak, but Song said, "I still have to prepare a lesson plan when I go back. If you're fine, I'll take a step." Fang, Teacher Fang. Cao Lingling was busy catching up with Song of Songs. She looked at Song of Songs, and tears fell down again. "Teacher Fang, can you help me? My parents want to marry me. Fool, I don't want to, can you help me? What I can find now is you. Oh, Teacher Fang, please help me." Yan Ji looked at her, without mildness and indifference. She looked at her so quietly, "I can't help you for a while, and if you really want to change, you can only rely on yourself and others. Use." But Cao Lingling identified Yanj as her life-saving straw. She clutched her tightly and did not loosen her sleeves. "Well, I'm just a student, I can't do anything, as long as I leave the school door." He was taken back by the second elder brother. "The second elder brother is so mixed, you know that. You don't want to help yourself, you just want to rely on others to help you, but others don't want to help a person who only depends on others." Yan Ji reached out and opened her hand a little bit. "Please ask me, better ask yourself." Yan Ji never thought about going down the rocks, nor did she think about helping Cao Lingling. People who just want to ask others for help don't have any of their own principles in their hearts. "Well, I never thought you were so cruel." Cao Lingling burst into tears in the same place. "How can you treat me like this? Others don't care, but I respect you so much that you love you. How can you do this?" Yanj's footsteps did not stop because of Cao Lingling's words. Many people think of Cao Lingling. Revenge without help. Such people do not have to waste their minds. Although Yanj didn't pay much attention to Cao's affairs, she couldn't bear that Angxiang's girl loved gossip. Every time she returned to Fang's house, Angxiang would tell her about Cao's affairs. Cao Lingling didn't continue to study, Cao Ziqiang asked one of his hosts to go to school to cheat Cao Lingling from school. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gongwei Pang. Chapter 200. As soon as Cao Lingling left school, Cao Ziqiang grabbed him and took it home. A small red sedan chair of the Cao family wanted to send Cao Lingling to a relative's house. However, Cao Lingling was not a vegetarian. She initially served softly to let the Cao family relax their vigilance, but then jumped off the sedan and ran away. That night he left the capital by elope with a man on a train. The Cao family found her at the train station all night. Because of this, the only place the Cao family sheltered from the wind and rain was gone, and was driven out by relatives. Both the old Cao family and Cao Ziqiang had cigarette addictions. Every day they were crying and borrowing money. When they had money, they went to smoke in the tobacco hall. When Xiang speaks vividly, she will sigh and say that the Cao family deserves it, and she will be grateful that she missed her in time. It would be nice if the host could get out in time. The host's uncle doesn't really like the host. Therefore, Yanj lives in the school dormitory as much as possible. In the beginning, she actually wanted to ask Ayaka to read, and then she would send Ayaka abroad. The only thing the host missed was this girl. Yanj wanted to make Angxiang a better life, but could not bear the subtle incense is not the material of reading. She heard the song Let Her Read, she cried terribly. Later, Song of Songs simply let Subxiang go to one of his dowry shops and learn to take care of the shop. Subxiang likes embroidery, and taking care of an embroidery shop is still pretty good. But soon, the capital was in chaos. Many people think that in a place like Beijing, there will be no more chaos. Therefore, although the streets are messy and there are more soldiers and horses in the capital, there are still many places that are singing and dancing. Many students in the school also organized a parade, one by one, trying to knock down the enemy with a pen. Yan Ji sometimes stood at the railing outside the dormitory and looked at the students yelling loudly on the playground. The complexity and sensibility of human beings, she sometimes doesn't understand at all. The chick said she didn't understand because she was careless. But there is no intention, and it has nothing to do with understanding these. She didn't understand it, just because human nature couldn't go far beyond her imagination. Cao Ziqiang has been promoted. However, he has never returned to Beijing. Yan Ji sometimes thinks about him, mainly because Cao Zi stays with a subordinate in Beijing. Two people have asked her to be a witness to get married. This subordinate takes care of Cao Ziqiang's little industry left in Beijing, which is regarded as a back road for Cao Ziqiang. But Yan Ji knew that Cao Ziqiang had no way back. He would climb all the way, climb to a high place, then fall down and die. She did not remind Cao Ziqiang that the butterfly effect could change a lot. If it could be changed, he would not die. If it couldn't be changed, she would be useless to remind him. Instead, it would keep him trembling. The Cao family lost Cao Lingling, a daughter who could exchange money, and came to the school to find several songs afterwards. But there is no need to speak up. Once they come, they will be beaten once by those left by Cao Zi. After being imprisoned several times, they were well behaved, and even if it was difficult, they did not dare to show up around the school. Cao Ziqiang came back when the Cao family was most embarrassed. He didn't go back to Beijing first, but went to the magic capital first. He and the so-called ideal person were in a double match with the devil, and with the support of the future Yu family, he planned a fuel difference. When discussing the marriage, he remembered his family in Beijing. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gongwei Pang. Chapter 201. Cao Ziqiang has always told his fiancée that his wife is a child from a young baby, and the poison left by feudalism. He has never seen his so-called wife, let alone affection. But he didn't want to let the future Yu family know about it, so he wanted to go back to the capital first, get rid of the wife at home, and then let his parents meet with the Yu family. But when he returned to Beijing, the courtyard of the Cao family had changed hands. After inquiring, he found his parents and younger brother in the great smoke hall. He watched lying on the floor wearing a shaggy, dirty face and a skinny skin, but still had a look of addiction. Parents who smoke are so disgusted at this moment. How could this be his parents? When he returned from abroad, he hated these smokers most, and now his relatives are smoking such things. If he let his family see his parents like him, his heart would be scorned. Maybe it will greatly reduce his impression. After recognizing his parents, Cao Zijian turned and left Yanguan almost without hesitation. Before leaving Beijing, he went to the girls' school where Yanj was. I heard she was teaching, I heard she was well mixed in the capital, and I heard that she was also known as the capital city double sister. He also deliberately bought those articles she published. She has always been a talented woman. What he admired most was her intellectual upbringing. He just didn't expect that she could not wait for him to return and divorce him. Such a woman is embarrassed. As she was so ruthless, he would no longer have to feel a little guilty about her in the future. Cao Zijian glanced at her from afar. He didn't know why he still wanted to see her. She was wearing a smoky green cheongsam. Nowadays, women like dresses. He used to see women in dresses, and now suddenly seeing her wearing a cheongsam, there is always an illusion. She was nothing like before. No, she should be more dazzling than before. Just standing there with a slight smile, it's dazzling, and people can't look away when they see her. He would have gone at a glance. But the moment I saw her, my heart suddenly became angry. I also wanted to rush to tell her his current status at this instant. Let her regret and let her know how wrong she was to give up on him. But in the end he also endured. Not yet. He told himself over and over again that one day, sooner or later, he would stand in front of her beautifully and make her cry and regret. Cao Zijian left that night. He told the Yu family that his parents in Beijing were gone, and his father-in-law and mother-in-law were his only parents ever since. Father-in-law and mother-in-law have only one daughter, no doubt very happy with his words. Naturally, he promoted him more carefully. Cao Zijian was very good at Modu. With the strong support of the Yu family, he could be described as a smooth step, but in his heart, there was always such a thorn. It pierced him to see the sleeping woman around him every night and a half, and he would think of a glimpse of that day. Therefore, even in the magic, he can develop steadily, even if he can give up everything that he has restarted, and can be extremely moisturized under the care of the Yu family. However, when he applied for the transfer order, he was terrible and applied for a transfer order to Beijing. When I saw Yanj again, he deliberately chose the school's opening ceremony. He was the chief lecturer in the school when he was the chief of staff of the regiment. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gongwei Pang. Chapter 202. Before Cao Zijian's speech, Yan Ji also gave a speech in fluent English. Cao Zijian only knew that she was a foreign language teacher, but he did not expect that she would speak such authentic and fluent English, and even at the end of the speech, she also gave a lecture in Japanese and Russian. He had wanted to make a stunning appearance in front of her, but she did not expect it to surprise him. After the ceremony, he did not leave, but waited for her in her office. Yan Ji has long noticed Cao Zijian. Cao Zijian was obviously promoted faster than his host. She guessed that it was because Cao Zijian had no problems with his original staff and the Cao family had no hindrance, so he got the joy of the Yu family. But how did this guy return to Beijing? Yanj couldn't figure it out, so I didn't care too much. This time Fang's family was with her, and there would be no end to the previous life. Cao Zijian returned to the capital and saved her from moving positions, which happened to be solved together in the capital. Before returning to the office, Yanj said a few words of shame to a few students. The office door was locked, but the door was opened as soon as the curtain was lifted. Slightly hesitated, the words rushed into the door. Cao Zijian sat on the chair where Yan Ji often sat at his desk and was looking at a handout of Yan Ji. Although he heard the noise at the door, he did not look up. Yan Song turned and left. As she lifted the curtain, Cao Zijian behind her voice said, "Mr. Fang, your English is very authentic. Where did you learn it?" The man spoke slowly and condescendingly, pretending to be full of meaning. Yan Ji turned his head to look at him. "In what capacity do you ask me?" Her expression of indifference reminded Cao Zijian of a long time ago. When he and his companions first met her, she was surrounded by men, but her face was cold and indifferent, like a snow lotus that cannot be climbed on a snow mountain. She had such a close-looking aura around her, and he hadn't felt it for a long time. He got up and laughed lowly. He stepped forward to Yan Ji, forced her behind the door, pressed his hands on the door, and circled her at the same time. "What do you think I should ask you? Do you want me to write a report letter about you to the captain of Modu?" Yan Ji looked up and asked him expressionlessly, "All of our divorce papers are still intact with me, as well as the original the love letters you wrote to me. If you don't mind, I'd love to send it to that coach." Cao Zijian stared at Yanj. He came to Beijing this time as a private visit to Weifu. Few people knew that there was a big brother behind him. Woman, how did she know? Has she been following him? His hand touched his waist unknowingly. Once his identity was revealed, the capital did not know how many handsome enemies wanted to assassinate him. He cannot put himself in danger. But he felt an empty waist. Yanj smiled at Cao Zijian, shaking his gun. "Are you trying to kill yourself?" The host looks beautiful, and the arrogant temperament of Yanj puts the host's beauty to the top. Although she smiled so brightly now, but like a prickly rose, it made people dare not to despise her because of her beauty. Cao Zijian reached out to grab the gun. "Girls don't play with guns, be careful with the guns and go out." His words just ended, Yan Ji has pulled the insurance and raised his gun to Cao Zijian's brows. "Don't move."